Hello. How are you? All right, so Michael asked me to write about a comic or a cartoon character that influenced me in my youth. So that's what I did. So this is a little essay. It was the mid-1980s in Canarsie, the eastern part of Brooklyn where I grew up. A part of Brooklyn that smelled of swampland and pizza and aerosol hairspray. A part of Brooklyn that no one visits, not even now after the hipsters have taken over the borough, because it is not cool and it is not convenient. There are no art galleries, no cafes, there isn't a mall, there isn't even a Starbucks. And it was here, in this outer corner of New York City, on a rust-colored living room carpet, that my older brother and I fought for the right to rule, or at least the right to rule the only full-size color television in the house on Saturday mornings. My brother, like most 9-year-old boys of our era, was hooked on watching cartoons where men in tights, boasting enormous quadriceps, would beat one another silly in the name of saving humanity. Or cartoons like Bugs Bunny, where mischievous schemes and snarky retorts were king. But my eyes glazed over during scenes of action-packed nonsense in my brother's favorite cartoons. We had enough drama at home and in school. Who wanted to watch all this aggravation while eating Cocoa Pebbles in our PJs on the weekend? No thank you. Cartoon watching for me on Saturday mornings was to be light and happy and colorful. I looked at my brother dead on and insisted, I have to have my Smurfs. The conflict stirred up a small civil war, which I could never understand. Who wouldn't love a village of cute, small blue trolls who lived in a part of the forest that no one else could find and got involved in brainless antics that involved outdoor concerts, magic potions, and frolicking among rainbows? The Smurfs even had a scary human-like adversary named Gargamel, who was always hatching unsuccessful plans to catch them, destroy their village, and eat them for dinner. But my brother did not see the draw. Lucky for me, through some intense negotiation, or perhaps at the hand of parental influence, I managed to win the right to watch Smurf Hour. Why did the 7-year-old me relate so strongly to these little blue humanoid elves that wore white leggings and matching floppy hats, had little round noses and toeless feet, and lived in mushrooms? It's because they were underdogs. They were simple, they were playful, and they were short. I liked short things. Hulk I couldn't relate to. But a community of flat-chested, awkward blue gnomes who wore the same outfit day in and day out, these were my people. And as an adult, this fact kind of scares me, because looking back, the Smurfs were kind of fucked up. The Smurfs were a veritable boys' club. There were 101 Smurfs, and only one of them was a girl. And she had long blonde hair, a short white dress, and little white pumps. Just in case. Smurf. All of the other Smurfs had names based on a primary personality trait, like Jokey Smurf, or Handy Smurf, or Brainy Smurf. But Smurfette's primary personality trait was that she was female. For Smurfette's name, all the village did was throw an "et" onto the name of their species. And all she did to distinguish herself in the community was bat her eyelashes and become very fearful when danger arose, which kind of makes sense because she didn't have the right shoes for climbing or running. Smurfette appeared in most of the episodes, either causing mischief through the use of her feminine wiles or making ludicrous comments that only a Barbie doll could make. In one episode, a magic wish-granting egg appears in Smurf Village, and while all the other Smurfs ask for fortune or power, Smurfette asks to be pink with blue flowers. Suddenly, her skin transforms into tacky floral wallpaper, and she lights up like she's just won the Powerball. In another episode, it's springtime, and suddenly all the Smurfs have Smurf fever, which means they've become desperately hormonal and start to woo Smurfette with music, flowers, and cookies made in the shape of her face. Fistfights ensue. It's disconcerting enough that as children under the age of 10, we had to watch the sexual arousal of the whole Smurf village on a Saturday morning cartoon. But what makes matters worse is that Papa Smurf gets in on the competition. Papa Smurf. This is the town elder whose red pants, red hat, and big bushy white beard is meant to distinguish him from the dim bulbishness of the younger Smurfs. He's their father figure, their protector. He's 564 years old. To compete for Smurfette's affection, Papa Smurf starts a secret exercise routine of weightlifting and stationary bike pedaling inside the privacy of his own mushroom, and creepily tries to convince Smurfette that older men have a lot to offer in terms of experience. What? Ultimately, Smurfette is forced to make a decision between the 100 contenders for her affection. Her response is, I can never pick just one of you because I love you all. Smurfette seems quite satisfied to be the only female in a village of complete polysmurfery. But the truth is that I wasn't all that concerned with Smurfette anyway. Though she was one of the 20 or so plastic Smurf figurines that line the windowsill in my bedroom, my attention was drawn to Smurfs like Hefty Smurf, the strong Smurf with the heart tattooed on his bicep. That's Hefty. I mean, who would you want to be? And Handy Smurf, who wore overalls and knew how to build things like my dad. I didn't want to be the dumb, coy Smurf in the dress. I wanted to be the productive Smurfs who took care of business in Smurftown. But the strange part was I was also kind of in love with them. I mean, I had a crush on Hefty and Handy. It was confusing. And this confusion wasn't just limited to Smurfs. In most of the shows I watched on TV, there were no female characters I wanted to emulate. That, coupled with the fact that my father was my biggest idol, led me to imagine my inner self to be a boy. On my front stoop, I sat with my legs wide open, chomping on gum like chewing tobacco. I walked with my hands shoved in my pockets with a teenage male strut. I cursed like a Brooklyn gangster. I even got into fistfights when someone threatened my turf. But I didn't only want to be a boy, I was also completely in love with boys, which made me kind of like a female gay boy. This is really like almost my most embarrassing photo from when I was a child. Notice how I'm sitting. Yeah. And the pink, which I'm sure I didn't choose. To be clear, my idolatry and longing was not only aimed at animated blue munchkins with oversized feet and 4 fingers on each hand. There were also human male celebrities that I both emulated and lusted after. Ricky Schroeder. Huey Lewis. Axl Rose, because I had his hair. In the 6th grade, I was assigned a project to read a biography of a famous person in history and then to come dressed as that person. I chose Michael J. Fox. True story. At the time, Fox was probably about 25 and his biggest accomplishment was starring as Alex P. Keaton on Family Ties. The biography was obviously an easy read, and the costume even easier, but the choice certainly perplexed my teacher and my classmates. As I got older, it started to become clear to me that I was never going to be a boy on the outside, even if I felt like a boy on the inside. And I eventually became okay with this realization. But the Smurfs continued to follow me to my adolescence, and not always in pleasant ways. Everywhere I went, because of my size, people called me Smurf. Classmates, crushes, strangers. In high school, my 4 best friends and I were all under 5'2". The whole school dubbed us the Smurf Posse. It wasn't sexy. Still, beside the short jokes and gender confusion I endured as a result of the Smurfs, there is something to be said for these hokey blue people of yesteryear. In the same way that we all enjoy a depressing breakup song from time to time because it makes us feel less alone, the Smurfs did offer the 6 and 7 and 8-year-old me a refuge of sorts. A validation that it was okay to be small, to be a misfit whose hat was too big, and to be under the constant threat of large adults who seemed hell-bent on destroying your playtime, your daydreams, and your freedom. In truth, as children growing up in Brooklyn, we wanted what the Smurfs had. Clean, safe places to play, a community of playmates at our constant disposal, no worries about money, the assurance that we would not be judged by the color of our skin, and a secret hiding place that no one else could find. And this is ultimately why the Smurfs of the 80s became so popular. It wasn't because of great action scenes or dialogue or character relationships. It wasn't because the show was clever or funny or offered a life lesson on anything at all. It was because Smurf life was easy, like a Sunday morning. Or a Saturday morning, as it were. Thanks.